5 years with my girlfriend, Emily, and the spark was long gone. Now she was getting a little too friendly with a guy from her office. Our days were filled with fighting over stupid little things, one dumb argument after another. We were hanging on by a thread. And then she moved in next door. My first love. 01, I just had another fight with Emily. She was already asleep, or pretending to be, so I went to the living room balcony for a smoke. Emily hated the smell of cigarettes in the apartment, which meant I was exiled to the balcony. Not even the living room was safe. 5 years we'd been together. The passion had faded into a kind of dull, comfortable resentment. It didn't help that I'd recently been laid off and was stuck at home, which meant I was in her line of fire, 24/7. Everything I did seemed to set her off. Every little thing turned into a battle, and neither of us was willing to back down. It wasn't like I wasn't looking for a job. The market was just brutal. What was I supposed to do? On top of that, I noticed she was getting close to a guy from her work. Sometimes, I'd see him drop her off downstairs. I knew we were at a breaking point. We just hadn't said the words out loud yet. I finished my cigarette, ready to head back inside, when I heard the flick of a lighter from the next balcony over. Emily had mentioned this morning that the apartment next door, which had been empty for ages, finally had a new tenant. I hadn't seen them yet. The layout was a mirror image of ours, the balconies separated by a simple partition. On instinct, I leaned over to take a look. There, on the other balcony, stood a woman with long, dark hair that cascaded down her back like a waterfall. It swayed in the gentle night breeze, seeming to carry the quiet mystery of the evening with it. She was wearing a semi-sheer nightgown, casual yet elegant, that hinted at the graceful curves of her body. The light fabric danced with the wind, adding a touch of effortless allure. I wanted to see her face, but she never turned my way. She didn't even seem to notice I was there. After a minute, she finished her cigarette and flicked it with a delicate finger, the glowing ember tracing an arc through the darkness. She turned and went back inside, leaving me alone, feeling a strange sense of loss. It took me a moment to shake it off. I went back to the bedroom, thinking maybe I could apologize to Emily to smooth things over the old-fashioned way. But she was still pissed. The second I touched her, she kicked out. "Get off me," she snapped. "Don't touch me." Her rejection sparked my own anger. I grabbed my pillow and blanket and stormed off to the guest room. But I was too worked up to sleep. My mind raced. I couldn't live like this anymore. I decided then and there, tomorrow, I was ending it. If the love was gone, there was no point in torturing each other. But as soon as I made the decision, a wave of doubt washed over me. 5 years is a long time. Even without the passion, there was history. There was a bond. Then, for some reason, the image of my new neighbor flooded my mind. Her silhouette, the way her nightgown moved in the wind, the casual way she held her cigarette. That jolt of attraction. It had been a long, long time since I'd felt that. Not since the very beginning with Emily. Forget it, I told myself. Get some sleep. She's probably one of those people who only looks good from behind. You'll see her face, and the fantasy will be over. I finally managed to talk myself down and drifted off. For the first time in a while, I had a good dream. The next morning, my alarm jolted me awake. I shot out of bed, planning to make breakfast for Emily. Fights were fights, but some routines were hard to break. Since I'd been laid off, I'd become the designated homemaker. But when I got to the living room, Emily was already walking out the door, purse in hand. "Hey, you not eating?" I called after her. She didn't answer. The door slammed shut behind her. A whole night had passed, and she was still holding on to it. What the hell was so important that she had to stay mad for that long? Now I was pissed off all over again. I didn't chase her. Instead, I went to the balcony and looked down. A familiar black Audi A8 was parked at the curb. I could just make out the driver, her colleague, looking right up at my window. 02, I watched Emily get into the car, and it sped away. A hollow feeling settled in my stomach. It was time. We needed to have a real conversation. Tonight, we'd figure it out, once and for all. Stay together or break up. No more living in this limbo. After a shower, I headed out to the farmer's market. Whatever happened tonight, we'd still have to eat. If we made up, it would be a celebration. If we broke up, it would be a farewell dinner. At the market, I started picking out vegetables, all of Emily's favorites. I used to be clueless about this stuff, always buying the wrong things. But all this time, as a reluctant stay-at-home boyfriend, had taught me a few tricks. I was even on friendly terms with some of the stall owners. While I was waiting at the butcher's counter, the owner, a big guy named Sal, handed me a cigarette. We were chatting when his eyes suddenly locked on something over my shoulder. "Whoa, check that out," he said, his voice low. "Total knockout." From the look on his face, I knew he wasn't exaggerating. I followed his gaze, and my breath caught. Standing a vegetable stall nearby was a woman in her late 20s with long, dark hair. She was dressed in a simple but elegant outfit that stood out against the chaotic backdrop of the market. Even in this crowded, earthy place, she moved with a kind of grace that seemed untouched by the world around her. She was like a cool spring in the middle of a dusty road, and every guy in the vicinity was stealing glances at her. Even the women seemed captivated, their voices softening as they haggled over prices, as if her presence demanded a certain civility. Sal let out a sigh of admiration. Some guy is seriously lucky to have her. I just stared. There was something familiar about her. As I was trying to place her, she walked over to our counter. Sal immediately dropped his cigarette, smoothed his hair, and put on his best customer service smile. She glanced at the display case. "Do you have any good ribs today?" she asked. Sal's eyes were glued to her, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed hard. "Yeah, of course, the best." He fumbled as he grabbed a rack of ribs, his hands shaking slightly. I leaned to the side, trying to get a better look to be sure. I wasn't mistaken. Just as I turned, her eyes met mine. "Jack?" she asked, her eyes widening in recognition. "Sophia?" I said, my voice barely a whisper. It was Sophia Russo, my high school girlfriend, my first love. We'd started dating sophomore year. Our parents got called into the principal's office and everything. Even so, we'd refused to break up, swearing we'd be together forever. Then I got into college out of state, and she didn't. We tried to make it work, calling each other every day, but with time, the calls got shorter, less frequent. The connection just faded. We never officially broke up. We just stopped talking. It was around that time I met Emily. Now, 7 or 8 years later, here Sophia was standing in front of me at a farmer's market. The shy, sweet girl I remembered was gone. In her place was this stunning, confident woman. The face was the same, but the youthful uncertainty had been replaced by a mature elegance. "It's been a long time. What are you doing buying groceries here?" "Oh, I live right around here." The words tumbled out of both of us at the same time, as if we'd rehearsed them. We both paused, then shared a small, knowing smile. A beat of silence passed between us. Sal, the butcher, just looked back and forth between us with an expression of pure, unadulterated envy. After we both paid, we started walking toward the exit together, almost by instinct. I still had other things to buy, but my list was forgotten. My mind was racing with 1,000 questions I wanted to ask her, but I had no idea where to start. I had a feeling she felt the same way. We walked all the way out of the market without saying another word. I noticed, though, that nearly every man we passed did a double take when they saw her, their eyes then flicking to me with a look of grudging respect. I'll admit it felt good. My ego, which had been taking a beating lately, got a much-needed boost. And why not? Sophia was perfect. Her looks, her figure, the way she carried herself. Even the clothes she wore looked expensive. She was clearly doing well for herself. At the corner, she stopped and turned to me. My heart started hammering in my chest, thinking she was finally going to say something, but all she said was, "Well, I should get going." A wave of disappointment washed over me, but I forced a smile. "Yeah, me too. I should head back." She gave me one last look, a small smile playing on her lips, nodded, and then walked away. I stood there for a moment, watching her go, feeling an old, familiar ache. She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't ask for my number. Maybe I should have been the one to ask, I thought. Maybe I should run after her. But what would I even do with her number? We both had our own lives now. She was a closed chapter, a part of my past. It was better to leave those memories untouched, wasn't it? Then I realized something. The direction she was walking. It was the same way I was going. I started walking again, staying a few paces behind her, a new thought popping into my head. Maybe I could at least see which building she lived in. But as we kept walking, my curiosity turned into confusion. We passed one apartment complex, then another, and she didn't turn in. It was only when she walked through the main gate of my own complex, the Covington, that it hit me. She lives here? For some reason, My heart leaped. I felt a surge of excitement, though I couldn't explain why. I picked up my pace and caught up to her. "Hey," I said. She turned, her eyes widening in surprise when she saw me. "You too." I smiled. "Small world. You live in the Covington?" Her expression wasn't one of pleasant surprise like mine. She looked startled, almost panicked, with a flicker of something else I couldn't decipher. In that moment, my excitement died, replaced by a cold sense of reality. I could see it in her eyes. She didn't want to see me again. I suddenly remembered how quickly she'd tried to end our conversation outside the market. "Well, see you around," I said, giving her a polite nod before walking past her toward my building. I didn't know what she was thinking as I walked away, but I felt like an idiot. That warm, fuzzy memory of us was suddenly feeling a lot less pleasant. Do we ever really love each other? Or was it just a story I'd been telling myself all these years? Zero, for I'd only taken a few steps when I heard familiar footsteps behind me. It was Sophia, but I didn't turn around. If she didn't want to see me, I wasn't going to force it. No point in making a fool of myself. It wasn't until I was standing at the elevator bank that I realized she had followed me all the way. I turned around, and she was staring at me, a look of disbelief on her face. "You live in this building?" "Yeah," I said with a tight smile. My own heart felt heavy. I didn't ask her which floor she lived on. The elevator arrived, and I stepped inside. I saw her standing just outside the doors, looking lost in thought. I didn't say anything to hurry her along. Just as the doors were about to close, she shot her hand out to stop them and stepped inside. Instinctively, we both reached for the panel at the same time. Our fingers both went for the same button, 23. "Oh!" We both gasped, pulling our hands back as if we'd been burned. This building was 2 units per floor. That meant we were neighbors, directly across the hall from each other. My mind instantly flashed to the woman on the balcony last night. That was Sophia. I risked a glance at her. Her face was a storm of conflicting emotions, but she quickly composed herself and pressed a button for the 23rd floor. I wanted to ask her how she was, if she was seeing anyone, but who was I to ask? What right did I have? We rode up in complete silence. When the elevator doors opened on our floor, Sophia rushed out and started digging frantically through her purse for her keys. I watched her for a second before walking to my own door and unlocking it. As I stepped inside, she was still searching. Right before I closed the door, I took one last look at her. I couldn't see her face, but I could feel her panic and her embarrassment. The moment the door clicked shut, I leaned back against it, a bitter taste in my mouth. It felt like I was about to cry. I stood there, motionless, until I heard the sound of her key finally finding the lock, her door opening and then closing. Only then did I let out a long, slow breath. 05 the rest of the morning, I was in a funk. It felt like I'd just been dumped all over again. I was so out of it that I nearly burned the lunch I was making. I was pulled out of my daze by the sound of Emily opening the front door. I went out to meet her. "Hey, lunch is almost ready." She ignored me, marching straight into the bedroom and pulling out her suitcase. I followed her. "What are you doing?" She didn't stop packing. "What does it look like?" she said coldly. "I'm leaving you. We're done." I knew this was coming, but hearing the words still felt like a punch to the gut. Is there really no fixing this? She finally looked at me, her eyes filled with contempt. "What do you think?" I closed the distance between us and wrapped my arms around her. "Emily, we started dating in college. We've been through so much." She shoved me away. I must have been blind to ever see anything in you. That stung. I had been ready to beg, but her words ignited a fire in me. All those years, and they meant nothing to her. "You found someone else, haven't you?" The words I'd been holding back for weeks finally came out. "You're trading up." Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb," I sneered. "Your colleague, Chris. The guy who drives you to and from work every single day. The guy who's always texting you after hours. You're telling me there's nothing going on there." She was silent for a moment, then went back to her packing. I kicked her suitcase over, sending her clothes spilling onto the floor. I was right, wasn't I? Cat got your tongue. She slapped me hard across the face. "Yes, fine. I like talking to him. I like that he drives me to work. We're broken up now, Jack. My life is none of your business anymore." Her confession hurt more than any denial would have. My heart felt like it had been shattered. "You're a real piece of work." I spat the ugliest words I could think of. She just laughed, a cold, empty sound. She didn't even bother to pick up her clothes. She grabbed her purse and walked out. This time, I didn't stop her. You can't hold on to someone whose heart has already left. After the door slammed for the second time that day, I took the lunch I had made and swept it all off the table, sending plates crashing to the floor. I collapsed against the kitchen doorway, my mind a complete blank. After a long time, the reality finally sank in. Emily and I were really over. I slowly picked myself up and cleaned up the mess. Then I went to the balcony and lit a cigarette. Down below, I saw her get into the same black Audi. I just smoked, feeling nothing and everything all at once. For the first time, I felt a sense of release. My eyes drifted to the balcony next door. For a second, I thought I saw Sophia standing there, smoking, but it was just a trick of the light. The balcony was empty. Not a sound came from her apartment. It occurred to me that I hadn't heard anything from her place since she got home. Her husband must not have come home for lunch. I was about to go back inside when I heard the sliding glass door next door open. I instinctively froze, leaning against the railing. A moment later, the familiar flick of a lighter. It glanced over. Sophia was standing there, still wearing the same clothes from the market. She took a drag from her cigarette and then looked my way. Our eyes met, and I could see a flicker of surprise on her face. 06, I gave her a small, tight-lipped smile and nod. She nodded back. I didn't know you smoked, I said, remembering the girl from high school. She took another slow drag, exhaling a cloud of smoke. Things change, she said quietly. It was clear she wasn't in the mood to talk, so I started to turn away. Fight with your girlfriend? She asked suddenly. Her question caught me off guard. I nodded. Yeah, we broke up. You've seen her? Yesterday, when I was moving in, she said. She's very pretty. I just shrugged, not knowing what to say. I wanted to ask about her life, but the words wouldn't come. Sophia finished her cigarette and flicked it away, just like she had the night before. I knew she was about to go inside, and a wave of panic hit me. It was now or never. What about you? I blurted out. How have you been? I saw her body tense for a second. She glanced at me, then forced a faint smile. I'm okay. Why'd you break up? I lost my job, I said with a bitter laugh. She got tired of me being useless, I guess. The magic was gone. She just murmured, oh, and we fell into another silence. After a long moment, she spoke again. There was a man who dropped your girlfriend off earlier. She just left in his car, too. I looked at her, surprised. You saw all that? I was out here smoking, she said, nodding. Is that her new boyfriend? A sharp pain shot through my chest. I don't know, I lied. She says no. Sophia laughed softly. She says no. Well, then maybe he isn't. I knew exactly why she was laughing. I didn't believe it myself. Why should she? I couldn't help but let out a dry, humorless laugh of my own. I pulled out another cigarette, but my lighter was out of fluid. It just sparked uselessly. Sophia pulled out her own lighter and held it out over the railing, the flame dancing in the afternoon light. For a second, that little flame felt like the turmoil inside my own chest. Emily was gone with her coworker, but was I any better? Hadn't my own heart strayed the second I saw Sophia on this balcony? Maybe the breakup was for the best. We were both already checked out. It's hot, she said, pulling the lighter back slightly. You want it or not? I leaned over the railing and lit my cigarette from her flame. I took a long, deep drag. So, I asked, are you seeing anyone? She lit a cigarette for herself and shrugged. Nope. What's the point? I frowned. You've been single all this time? She exhaled slowly. What are you thinking? Do I look like the kind of person who's been single for years? My heart skipped a beat. I looked at her, really looked at her, as she casually ran a hand through her long hair. No, she was beautiful, sophisticated, magnetic. Of course she wasn't single. There was no way a woman like her would be lacking for male attention. A sad smile touched my lips. She noticed, frowning. What's so funny? You don't believe me? No, I believe you, I said quickly. Then what are you smiling at? Just laughing at myself, I said, shaking my head. Oh, and what's so funny about you? Before I could answer, my stomach let out a loud, embarrassing growl. 07 Sophia raised an eyebrow. Hungry. I nodded, my face flushing with embarrassment. Of course I was hungry. My lunch was currently in the trash can. She was quiet for a moment, considering. I made too much food, she said finally. You want to come over and have some? Without a second of hesitation, I said, yes. Absolutely. She seemed taken aback by how quickly I agreed, and for a second, I thought maybe she was just being polite. But then she nodded. Okay, come on over. She disappeared inside. I immediately put out my cigarette and went back into my apartment. I was about to rush right over, but I paused at my door. As I crossed the hallway to her apartment, my heart started pounding. It's one thing to fantasize about something, but it's another thing entirely to act on it. Seeing Sophia had thrown me for a loop, but as long as I was with Emily, there was a line I wouldn't cross. But Emily was gone now. She'd left me for another guy. What was holding me back? Just as I was about to knock, the door swung open. Sophia stood there, looked at me for a second, then turned and walked back inside, leaving the door open for me. I took a breath and followed her in. Have a seat, she called from the kitchen. I just need to heat this up. Her apartment was a mirror image of mine, but the decor was completely different, more personal, more stylish. I sat at her dining table and watched as she tied on an apron and moved around the kitchen. I found myself getting lost in the moment. What if we had never broken up? What if this was my life with her? What are you thinking about? She asked, placing a plate of hot food in front of me. I snapped back to reality. Oh, nothing, I said with a weak smile. She brought me a bowl of rice. Eat. I dug in like a starving man. It was delicious. To be honest, it was the first time I'd ever tasted her cooking. Back in high school, we were just kids. We never had the chance. She watched me, a small smile on her face. Is it really that good? It's amazing, I said between mouthfuls. She studied my face for a moment. You haven't changed a bit, she said softly. You still eat like that. Her words stopped me. I looked up at her. She remembered? She must have realized what she'd said, because she immediately fell silent. When I finished, I took my plate and bowl to the kitchen sink. Just leave it, she said quickly. I'll get it later. I ignored her and turned on the faucet. She came up behind me. I said, don't worry about it. I'll wash them. I kept washing. It's no big deal. Just a couple of dishes. She reached past me, turned off the water, and took the bowl from my hands. I turned to look at her and was surprised to see she was genuinely upset, her eyes red around the edges. You always do this, she mumbled, her voice thick with emotion. You're so stubborn. You never listen to what anyone else wants. You just assume. I had no idea why she was suddenly so angry. I was just trying to be helpful. She seemed to realize she was overreacting and quickly turned her back to me. I saw her shoulders trembling slightly. My heart ached for her. On pure impulse, I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around her from behind. I felt her entire body go rigid, but she didn't move. I buried my face in her hair, inhaling her scent. My heart was racing, my throat suddenly dry. When I first hugged her, it wasn't a move, it was just an instinct to comfort her. But holding her, I understood what she'd meant. You just assume. Our breakup had been a slow, quiet fade-out. We never had the big fight, never said the words, it's over. I had just assumed she was losing interest because she called less. What had she been through all these years? Just then, she pried my hand away, spun around, and slapped me. It wasn't hard, but looking into her tear-filled eyes, I felt the full force of her anger. I'm sorry, he whispered. She let out a bitter laugh. Sorry? Are you sorry for what you just did, or for what you did back then? He stared at her, confused. Back then? I thought. You stopped calling as much, so I thought. You thought. She cut me off, her voice rising. You always think. You just assume. Why can't you stop and think about someone else for a change? The tears she'd been holding back finally spilled over, streaming down her cheeks. I wanted to pull her into my arms again, but I held back. All I could do was stand there and keep apologizing. She was right. I had assumed she was done with me. And if I was being honest with myself, it was a convenient assumption. I had just met Emily. Sophia took a deep breath, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. You should go, she said. I don't want to see you. But I didn't move. I knew there was more to it than this. Her anger felt too deep. When I didn't leave, she started pushing me toward the door. I grabbed her hands, pulled her toward me, and wrapped her in my arms. She struggled at first, beating against my chest with her fists. I just held her tight, whispering I'm sorry over and over again into her ear, letting her get it all out. Eventually, her struggles subsided. Her arms dropped to her sides, and she went limp in my embrace. We stood like that for a long time, neither of us speaking. I looked down and saw she was looking up at me. Our eyes met, and in that moment, I saw a flicker of the old affection, buried deep beneath years of hurt. Hate is just love that has nowhere to go. I leaned down to kiss her. She turned her head away. I didn't let that stop me. I cupped her face in my hands, turned her back to me, and pressed my lips to hers. I kissed her with all the regret and longing I'd kept bottled up for years. At first, she was unresponsive, her eyes wide open, staring at me. Then, she opened her mouth and bit down hard on my lip. I tasted blood. The pain was sharp, but I didn't pull away. I let her vent her frustration. After a moment, she released me. I immediately kissed her again. This time, she didn't fight it. She didn't refuse. Slowly, tentatively, she began to kiss me back. Her response grew more intense, until her passion matched, and then surpassed, my own. In that moment, I knew I was completely lost. I lifted her into my arms, carried her to the sofa, and laid her down gently. All bets were off. I was hers. Later, as we lay tangled together, exhausted and breathless, she spoke. "I came to your college town once," she said, her voice quiet. "I found a job there. I was so excited to surprise you. But when I found you, you were with her. The two of you were walking hand in hand, laughing." Her words hit me like a lightning bolt. It all made sense now. The anger, the reason she didn't want to see me. She had come for me, full of hope, and I had destroyed it without even knowing she was there. I was flooded with a wave of regret, so powerful it almost drowned me. I kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her hair, whispering, "I'm sorry," again and again. What else could I say? How could I ever make up for a mistake I didn't even know I'd made? "It doesn't matter," she said, stroking my hair. "It's all in the past. Everything happens for a reason. We just weren't meant to be. Even if we had stayed together then, we probably would have broken up by now anyway." She seemed to have a clearer perspective on it than I did, but I didn't fully believe she was over it. Or maybe she was, but only in the last hour. Then she asked, "What if your girlfriend comes back? What if she asks you to take her back?" I froze. "That won't happen," I said. "Her heart's not with me anymore." Sophia gave me a wry look. "Look who's talking. What were you just doing 10 minutes after your big breakup?" I smiled sheepishly. She had a point. After I left her place, my head was spinning. I sat in my empty living room for a long time, replaying the day's events. Had I really just fallen into bed with Sophia hours after Emily left me? Was this the fastest rebound in history? That night, I just made some instant ramen. I didn't hear from Sophia, and I didn't reach out to her. Maybe what happened was just a one-time thing, a moment of weakness for both of us. Now that we had time to think, things felt more complicated. Her question echoed in my mind. What if Emily did come back? Could I forgive her? Could we start over? And what about Sophia? She said she was single, but I found that hard to believe. Maybe she was like me, on the rebound from a recent breakup. Lying in bed that night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was a highlight reel of my life. Moments with Emily, good and bad. Memories of a teenage romance with Sophia. And the raw, undeniable passion of that afternoon. Finally, I gave up on sleep and went to the balcony for a smoke. It was a habit now, even without Emily here to complain. I stepped outside and glanced next door. She was there, dressed in the same sheer nightgown as the first night I saw her. Just as captivating. She saw me and gave a small start. "I thought you'd be asleep." I shrugged. "Couldn't sleep." "You." She took a long drag from her cigarette, the smoke curling around her face in the moonlight. "Too much on my mind," she said softly. I smirked. "Thinking about me?" She rolled her eyes. "In your dreams." "Then what is it?" I pressed. She sighed. "In a month, I'm moving out of the country." Her words hit me so hard my hand shook and my cigarette fell from my fingers, tumbling into the darkness below. Sophia saw my reaction and held out a fresh one for me. I took it, lit it, and finally found my voice. "Moving?" She nodded. "It's been planned for a while." My heart sank, just when I thought maybe after Emily, Sophia, and I could have a real chance. It was all turning to smoke. "Are you sad to see me go?" she asked, a teasing glint in her eye. "Yeah," I admitted. "When are you coming back?" She hesitated, her gaze dropping. She didn't want to answer. After a long moment, she took a deep breath. "My parents are already living over there. They've been wanting me to join them." I already knew the answer, but I had to ask. "So you're not coming back?" She gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. "Probably not." I fell silent. I wanted to beg her not to go, but what right did I have? She leaned back against the railing, watching me. We finished our cigarettes without another word. Well, she finally said with a sad smile. We still have a month, right? I smiled back and nodded. She leaned over the railing, tilting her head toward me. Come here, she whispered. I knew what she wanted. I leaned in and kissed her. After a moment, she pulled back. Come over, she said, her voice husky. I want you to hold me tonight. I didn't need to be told twice. The walk across the hall felt like a mile. My brain was screaming at me to say something, to ask her to stay. But the moment I stepped inside her apartment, words became unnecessary. We fell into each other's arms and didn't let go. After that night, we never mentioned her leaving again. It was an unspoken rule. If we didn't talk about it, maybe it wouldn't be real. I never heard from Emily again, aside from a rumor that she was officially with Chris. I let her go completely and moved my things into Sophia's apartment. We spent every waking moment together, lost in our own little world, never getting tired of each other. Then one morning, I woke up and she was gone. I searched the apartment, but there was no trace of her. It wasn't until I opened the closet and saw that all her clothes were gone that I understood. I sank onto the edge of the bed, a hollow feeling spreading through my chest. After a while, I noticed a piece of paper on the nightstand. A note from her. She wrote that she was already at the airport, that she had given me a month to ask her to stay, but I never did. She said she didn't blame me. She wrote that our month together was the happiest time of her life, and that she would never forget it. I slapped myself across the face hard. I had let the days blend together, so wrapped up in her that I had lost track of time. I hadn't even realized our month was up. I raced to the airport, but I was too late. Her flight had already departed. Tears streamed down my face, but it was pointless. She was gone. Nothing I did could change that. I went home feeling like a ghost. Her image burned into my mind. From that day on, Sophia was gone from my life. It took some time, but eventually I pulled myself together. I found a new job. I threw myself into my work, using the long hours to numb the pain. Anytime I had a free moment, my mind would drift back to her. I haven't seen her since, but somewhere deep down, I have this feeling that our story isn't over, that someday we'll see each other again.